Ohio State is yet to show an ability to respond.
They're broken.
Right, mentally, toughness quotient. So why would I say that? I say it because it's SEC Media Day, and I say it because Paul Finebaum, to me, said one of the most disrespectful things you could say. Now, again, you could tell me he's biased, he hates Harbaugh, so blah, blah. You know what? I don't care anymore. I'm tired of ESPN's bias. How about you just call it straight? Am I not biased? I hate your guts. But I can give respect where it's needed. So here's what Finebaum, he was asked about, can anyone stop a Georgia three-peat? And mind you, a true three-peat has not been done since the 1930s. It's really hard to do.
I guess you're right.
It's really hard to do. Now, I'm not talking when you reach in the bag of cookies and claim stuff 50 years later, or it was, stop. Just cut it out. So he was asked, and he goes, there's a couple of teams that have a chance at possibly beating Georgia. Outside the SEC, I like Ohio State. You know who he didn't say? Mm-hmm. Michigan. Now, let me ask you a question. What does Ohio State have to do that Michigan doesn't? It's called replace a quarterback. It's called replace a top 3 pick in the NFL draft with a guy who has never played, Kyle McCord. We don't know if he's any good. Mm-hmm. You know what Michigan doesn't have to do? Replace quarterback. Why is anyone, Paul Finebaum or otherwise, invoking the Big Ten and this idea of who can beat Georgia if you are, forget about if you want to say, hey, I was impressed at what Ohio State did in the playoff. If Harrison doesn't get hurt, okay. But you are not allowed to bring up Ohio State if you're not bringing up Michigan. Because the last I checked, Michigan has blown them off the field the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. Once at your place, once at theirs. And where's this year's game, Rico?
Ann Arbor.
With a new quarterback on the road. And I got to listen to Finebaum.
It could be right here in the Odyssey parking lot.
Right. We could play on Kaztek's 92.5-yard field. The point I'm making to you is, it is disrespect. Now, leave it to a Spartan to use the disrespect card, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm being serious about this. Right here, right now, as we go across college football, excuse me, I apologize. Georgia's replacing a quarterback. Mm-hmm. Bama's replacing a quarterback. Ohio State is replacing a quarterback. Mm-hmm. There are 2 teams I care about that aren't. USC is one problem. The Pac-12 bleeps down their leg every November. And Michigan. How are you having a good faith conversation about who could stop Georgia's three-peat without bringing up Michigan? Now, people, don't adjust your dial. I'm shooting you right down Main Street here. Finebaum, to me, that's out of order.
It is, but it's on brand. We're talking Paul Finebaum. Who does he not like?
James Harbaugh.
Yeah. So what better way to stick it to Harbaugh and Michigan fans? The ultimate sign of disrespect, I'm not going to say your name.
Come on.
I'm not. You're an afterthought. You are Ohio State, but you're right. Ohio State, plethora of receivers, running backs. Now, here's the other thing Ohio State doesn't have. Ohio State used to have lights out defense. They would put a defensive lineman top 5, top 10 every NFL draft.
The silver bullets.
Man, Chase Young graduated a long time ago.
Right. The Bosa's. Not there anymore.
So now when you look at this team, they can't stop the run. Hey, what can Michigan do? Well,
pound the rock.
They can run the ball. Harbaugh, we got on this show and blasted him because he was running the ball 60, 70 times in a game. We're like, are you ever going to throw it? Why? You can't stop the run. Thought it was a big mistake. He's done that strategy to the playoffs twice. We're just going to jam it down your throat. You can't say anything about it.
Now, the benefit of this show, which sometimes can be a curse, is we have a real, live, breathing, with a full set of teeth, Georgia fan. And Kenny,
No
I know.
flag. You actually do have all your teeth.
You do. Great dental care. The point is, Kenny, you can call it a pillow fight because no one is saying it's going to happen. We're saying if you had to make a short list of teams that could make it happen, how the hell is Ohio State on that list and not U of M?
I don't know how at least both of the teams aren't on the list. If you want to put Ohio State on there,
Right.
we saw how they almost handled Georgia, and you can make an argument, well, it could have happened, and it could have. But if both teams aren't on that list, I think that's a little bit disrespectful to Michigan.
But see, isn't that something that we only see in college football media? The ridiculous agendas and the narrative and the rest. I don't like Michigan last I checked. I'm able to come on the air and just tell you how I feel.
This is like the SEC's blue wall is what this is.
It is.
Ooh.
But it sells interesting because no other sport, pro football, pro basketball, baseball, college sports, especially college football, it brings out the fan in everybody. You love your team, whether they're good or bad. If a baseball team is bad, you'll write them off for the year. If your college football team is bad, you're going to stick in there with them regardless. There we go.
You had to know that was coming, Rico.
You know,
Come on, dude.
Kenny, as the words left,
You were trying to get him back.
right, I'm grabbing them like, no. Why did you just set that up? That was just
Usually he has to work for that transition.
Right.
But no, not that time.
all right.
Nice and easy.
I thought maybe it would be a hobby by his swing and he would just miss it, but no.
No.
He turned it around like Otani.
So let's bring this up. 248-539-9797. Guys, we're under 40 days to college football. Michigan's damn near a 40-point favorite in their first game. You don't have a hard schedule. And I'm not saying it's for sure. I'm not saying it's guaranteed. I'm just saying if we're having a conversation about the teams that could unseat Georgia and derail a historical three-peat, I think you're on it. The fact that Finebaum with a straight face went up there and said Ohio State and not you, I'm bewildered by it. Because you know what we've never seen? Kyle McCord throw a single pass of relevance. And that is something that's kind of a big deal.
It's the fact that I guess he's looking at the Ohio, like Marvin Harrison Jr., the Ohio State wide receivers. You probably got 4 wide receivers going to the league.
So the thought process is what? That Ohio State loses to Michigan again, but still makes the playoff again, and then would somehow beat Georgia and then be in a winner-take-all on a fast track against Michigan and what?
Well, Mike,
not give up 5 zillion yards rushing?
Well, Mike, you actually hit upon my second point. I think a lot of this is recency bias. What did Ohio State almost do until Marvin Harrison Jr. got injured?
Beat Georgia.
Right. And Georgia won the national title. So you saw Ohio State toe-for-toe battle Georgia, and if it wasn't for Kirby Smart sniffing out a play fake on a punt, Ohio State wins that game because they would have lined up, got the first down, game over. You saw Michigan in the playoff going up against TCU. I thought you were going to go not going good. And then what did TCU do when they played Georgia? Georgia players eating chicken wings. So I do think for Paul and a lot of people, you can't give Michigan the respect because you lost to TCU. And TCU never should have been in a championship game. You were given a pass. That was set up for Michigan, Georgia, 2. And you blew it. TCU proved to themselves, man, it was ugly. It was done after about the first 3 series, whereas Ohio State, it took an injury to a top receiver to derail that team.
See, and that's all well. That's all great. You're right. Great examples. You're exactly right. I mean, we couldn't hang with Georgia,
Man,
and we should not have lost to TCU. But here's the problem I have. Fine, bring up Ohio State, but they're not the top dog of the Big Ten right now. You have to mention Michigan.
David,
They're not
the top dog of the Big Ten, but even Michigan fans, you have to agree, are saying it's championship or bust. We've been to the playoffs.
Correct.
Ohio State went to the playoffs, and they had the game won, and Marvin Harrison Jr. gets knocked out the game on an illegal play, and that cost him. If he doesn't get knocked out, Kenny is not wearing back-to-back championship hats. Georgia loses that game, and Ohio State, I think, would have probably just went ahead and boat raced TCU. So that's why nobody values the Big Ten. We do here because we live here. But outside of that, The Big Ten doesn't win championships in the major sports.
I understand that. I think that the other thing you're fighting against here, and again, 248-539-9797, Georgia's trying to do something no one's done in damn near 80 years, 90 years. A three-peat is next to impossible. No offense. Now, they have Carson Beck and they got Vandergrift. They have talented guys that might win the quarterback job. But again, they're replacing one of the all-time winners in college football, basically mini-me Tebow in Stetson Bennett. This idea, I just think it's so dishonest for Finebaum to get up there, say Ohio State without even a mention of U of M. And what I'm tired of is that in college football media. It's the dumbest thing in the world. You don't have to like Harbaugh. Nobody does. But you give it up when a guy accomplishes something.
It does.
They own the Big Ten right now.
Mike, they own the Big Ten, but I think this goes past Harbaugh in Michigan. I think this shows that nobody respects the Big Ten. And at least Ohio State was the only team that put up a challenge to the vaunted SEC because it is recency bias. You couldn't handle TCU. They almost beat Georgia. So you know what? We're going to ride with them.
See, but if you want to have that argument after candidates are listed here in his
Exactly.
and he's not mentioning Michigan. That's the problem that
How
I
is
have.
he putting
Mention the
USC,
candidate. Yes,
who plays no defense whatsoever? How is he putting USC on that list and not U of M?
and they continue to not win the Pac-12. What are we doing?
Look, my whole point is, I remember back when MSU used to be good, back in the black and white TV days. I remember when we used to be good, and the disrespect was strong. We were damn near underdogs in every bowl game we played, and we won them all. And we were underdogs every time we played OSU. We were underdogs when we played Michigan. We beat everybody. Mm-hmm. You never could get the respect because you weren't one of the invited guests. My point is, with U of M, they're a blue blood.
Right.
They're an invited guest. They have stormed the gates and taken this conference from OSU. I think it's ridiculous for national media, whether it's pettiness, whether it's agenda, whether you're bought and paid for by the SEC. You got to at least say the words.
I agree with you. And please don't get it twisted. I think that Michigan is the king of the Big Ten. I've said it over and over again.
Sparty.
But I think what hurts Michigan is they lose their bowl games. And that's the last impression that people have of them.
Well,
and when you lost to TCU and TCU gets embarrassed by Georgia, but Ohio State almost beats Georgia.
That's fair.
That's the difference.
Harbaugh now in the last game of the season is 1-7. Mm-hmm. Is that correct? 1-5 in actual bowls, 0-2 in playoffs.
Yeah, and when you played Georgia the year before, wasn't close.
That wasn't, mistakes were made. It wasn't good.
2-7.
I'm sorry. Sorry, David.
What, we caught in COVID?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. It 1-7. 2-7's overall. My bad.
Or
My
did
bad.
they just go and claim another victory like they like to do?
No.
Oh, the Blue beat the Maize in COVID year.
Up next in the When Black People Didn't Play files, we've claimed another title, 1860.
All right.
I'm sorry, but it'll always get me when they claim 1901, 1902, 1903. Right. People didn't even have indoor plumbing.
Mm-hmm. We're going to teach you how to play football. Oh, by the way, we beat you.
We kept score.
And now that counts.
And we win. Leave now. 248-539-9797. It's funny, people. What is it? Your brains can't handle when I say something nice? Or do you just agree? And there's really nothing to say? I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. I'm not Miss Cleo. Feel free.
Call me now.